I was preparing a butternut squash soup for my restaurant's fall menu when the pain hit me like a knife to the gut. One moment, I was tasting the perfect balance of sage and cream. The next, I was on my kitchen floor, writhing in agony as blood pooled around me. When I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, doctors told me I had stomach cancer and might never taste food again. My name is Sophia Martinez. And at 33, I was living my dream as head chef and owner of Luna's Kitchen, a farm-to-table restaurant in Portland, Oregon. Food had been my passion since childhood, growing up in my grandmother's kitchen in New Mexico, learning to make perfect tortillas by the time I was 8 and understanding the magic that happens when simple ingredients are treated with respect and love. Cooking wasn't just my career. It was my identity, my art form, my way of showing love to the world. Every dish that left my kitchen carried a piece of my soul. Every flavor combination was a story I was telling through taste. I'd spent 15 years working my way up from prep cook to sous chef to finally opening my own place. 2 years earlier, Luna's Kitchen was everything I dreamed of. A cozy 40-seat restaurant with an open kitchen where diners could watch me work, using ingredients from local farms and changing our menu with the seasons. Food critics had started to notice us, and we'd just been featured in Portland Monthly as one of the city's rising stars. That October morning started like any other. I'd arrived at the restaurant at 6 a.m. to prep for the day, my usual routine of checking deliveries, tasting yesterday's stocks, and planning the evening specials. My sous chef, Maria Rodriguez, wouldn't arrive until 8, so I had 2 hours of blessed solitude in my kitchen, my church, my sanctuary, the place where I felt most like myself. I'd been developing a new butternut squash soup recipe for weeks, trying to capture the essence of autumn in a bowl. The base was perfect, roasted butternut squash with caramelized onions and fresh sage from our herb garden. But something was missing, some element that would make diners close their eyes and sigh with satisfaction. The pain in my stomach had been bothering me for months, but I'd attributed it to stress and irregular eating habits. Restaurant life is brutal on your body, long hours, constant pressure, grabbing bites of food between orders instead of sitting down for proper meals. I lived on coffee and adrenaline most days, often forgetting to eat until after the dinner rush when I was 2. Exhausted to care about food. You need to take better care of yourself, my girlfriend Emma would say, watching me collapse on her couch at midnight after another 14-hour day. When's the last time you had a real meal that you didn't cook while standing over a stove? Emma was a nurse at OHSU, so she understood demanding careers, but she worried about my health habits. She was right. I took better care of my line cooks than I did myself, making sure they took breaks and ate proper meals while I survived on taste and scraps. That morning, I was stirring cream into the soup base when the cramping started, sharp, twisting pain in my upper abdomen that made me double over. I'd had stomach issues before, heartburn from tasting acidic sauces, nausea from the stress of service, but this was different. This felt like something was tearing me apart from the inside. I tried to breathe through it, leaning against my prep counter and focusing on the familiar sounds and smells of my kitchen. The low hum of the walk-in cooler, the aroma of fresh herbs and roasting vegetables, the comforting weight of my favorite knife in my hand. This was my domain, the place where I was in control, where I could fix anything with the right combination of ingredients and technique. But I couldn't fix what was happening inside my body. The pain intensified, radiating from my stomach up into my chest and down into my pelvis. I felt nauseous and dizzy, breaking out in a cold sweat as I gripped the edge of the counter. Then I tasted something metallic, blood, and knew I was in serious trouble. I managed to call 911 before collapsing onto the tile floor of my kitchen, my vision blurring as I watched drops of blood from my mouth mixed with spilled cream from the soup I'd been perfecting. The irony wasn't lost on me even in that moment. I was bleeding into the food I'd created with such care and precision. The paramedics found me unconscious 20 minutes later, surrounded by the tools of my trade and the ingredients I'd planned to transform into art. Maria arrived just as they were loading me into the ambulance, her face pale with shock as she took in the scene. "Sophia, what happened?" She called out, but I couldn't answer. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, my body shutting down systems to preserve what was left of my blood supply. I woke up 3 days later in the IQ at OHSU, connected to machines that beeped and hummed and kept me alive while my body tried to figure out how to function again. Emma was asleep in a chair beside my bed, still wearing scrubs from her shift, her hand resting on mine. My voice was barely a whisper, my throat raw from the ventilator that had been breathing for me. Her eyes opened immediately, flooding with relief and tears. "Oh my God, Sophia, you're awake. You're really awake." The next few hours were a blur of doctors and tests and explanations that didn't quite penetrate the fog of pain medication. Dr. Jennifer Chan, a gastroenterologist with kind eyes and a gentle manner, sat with Emma and me to explain what they'd found. "Sophia, you experienced a massive gastrointestinal bleed," she said, pulling up images on her tablet. "When we did the emergency endoscopy, we found a large ulcerated mass in your stomach. The biopsy results came back this morning." Emma's hand tightened on mine. We both knew that masses requiring biopsies were rarely good news. "It's adenocarcinoma," Dr. Chang continued. "Stomach cancer fairly advanced. The tumor has grown through the stomach wall and may have spread to nearby lymph nodes." Stomach cancer. The words felt surreal, like she was talking about someone else, some other chef whose body had betrayed them in the most ironic way possible. I made my living understanding stomachs, knowing exactly how long it took to digest different foods, how various spices and acids would affect the digestive process, how to create dishes that would satisfy without overwhelming. Now my own stomach was trying to kill me. "What does this mean for treatment?" Emma asked, her nursing background helping her cut through the shock to ask practical questions. "We'll need to stage the cancer to determine how far it spread," Dr. Chang explained. "CT scans, possibly a PET scan, and then we'll discuss surgical options. Given the size and location of the tumor, we're likely looking at a total gastrectomy." Total gastrectomy. Complete removal of my stomach. I didn't need medical training to understand what that meant for someone whose life revolved around food. Will I be able to eat normally again? I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. Dr. Chang paused, choosing her words carefully. "After a total gastrectomy, eating is very different. We'll connect your esophagus directly to your small intestine, but you'll only be able to eat very small amounts at a time. Many foods will be difficult to tolerate, and you'll need to eat frequently throughout the day to maintain nutrition. Many foods will be difficult to tolerate. For most people, that might mean inconvenience. For me, it meant the end of everything I was. The staging scans revealed that the cancer was confined to my stomach and a few nearby lymph nodes, stage 2, which was better than it could have been, but still required aggressive treatment. The surgery was scheduled for the following week, giving me time to process the fact that I was about to lose the organ that had defined my entire adult life. Emma took leave from work to stay with me, advocating with doctors and helping me understand the massive changes coming to my body. Maria stepped up to run Luna's kitchen, though we all knew that without me there, the restaurant's future was uncertain. "Don't worry about the restaurant right now," Maria said during one of her visits. "Just focus on getting better. We'll figure out the rest later," but I couldn't stop worrying. Luna's kitchen wasn't just my business. It was my baby, my artistic expression, my legacy. The thought of losing it along with my stomach felt like a double amputation. The night before surgery, I asked Emma to bring me something from the restaurant's kitchen. Not food. I'd been on a liquid diet for days to prep for the operation, but my favorite knife, the German steel blade that had been with me for 10 years, perfectly balanced and sharp enough to slice paper. I want to remember what it feels like to hold it, I told her, in case I never cook again. She brought the knife along with a small bundle of fresh herbs from our garden, rosemary, thyme, and sage. I held them to my nose, breathing in the familiar scents that had comforted me through every challenge of my career. "You're going to cook again," Emma said firmly. "Maybe differently, but you're going to find a way. You're the most creative person." I know. The surgery was supposed to take 4 hours. I've been through the plan with Dr. Patricia Williams, the surgical oncologist who would be removing my stomach and reconstructing my digestive system. She was confident and experienced, with hundreds of these procedures under her belt. "We'll take out your entire stomach along with the surrounding lymph nodes," she'd explained, drawing diagrams of the anatomy that would soon be mine. "Then we'll create what's called a Roux-en-Y reconstruction, connecting your esophagus to a loop of small intestine. It's a well-established procedure with good outcomes." I was learning that medical good outcomes and life good outcomes weren't necessarily the same thing. Emma kissed me goodbye as they wheeled me into the operating room, promising to be there when I woke up. The anesthesiologist, Dr. Michael Chen, was gentle and reassuring as I started my 4. "See you in a few hours, Sophia," he said. "When you wake up, the hard part will be behind you." But as it turned out, the surgery that was supposed to save my life nearly killed me instead. During the operation, something went catastrophically wrong. Later, Dr. Williams would explain that the tumor was more extensively spread than the scans had shown, wrapped around blood vessels in ways that made removal technically challenging. As they worked to free the stomach from surrounding tissues, they accidentally tore the splenic artery, causing massive internal bleeding. "We had to make some quick decisions," Dr. Williams told Emma while I was still unconscious in recovery. "The bleeding was severe. We lost her twice on the table. We managed to repair the damage and remove her spleen as well as her stomach, but she lost a significant amount of blood. The next 48 hours will be critical. Lost her twice. Medical speak for she died and we brought her back. Twice, I woke up from that surgery barely alive, connected to more machines than I could count. Ventilator, feeding tubes, drainage tubes, monitors tracking every heartbeat and breath. Emma was there, looking like she'd aged years in the past week, holding my hand and whispering encouragements I was too weak to fully understand. The recovery was brutal. Infections, complications, setbacks that required additional surgeries. For weeks, I existed in a haze of pain medications and medical interventions, my body fighting to heal from trauma it had never been designed to endure. But slowly, impossibly, I got stronger. The day they removed the ventilator and I could speak again, the first thing I asked about wasn't the restaurant or my recovery timeline. When can I taste food again? I whispered to Dr. Williams. She smiled gently. Let's focus on healing first. Then we'll work on teaching your new anatomy how to handle nutrition. Teaching my new anatomy. I was going to have to learn how to eat all over again, like a toddler discovering food for the first time. Except this time, I knew what I was missing. The feeding tube kept me alive for 2 months, while my surgical sites healed and my reconstructed digestive system learned to function. Liquid nutrition dripped directly into my small intestine, bypassing the mouth and esophagus entirely. I dreamed about food constantly, not elaborate restaurant dishes, But simple things like the taste of fresh bread or the satisfaction of a perfectly ripe tomato dot, my first attempt at oral feeding was both triumph and disaster. A tiny sip of clear broth, something that would have been laughably simple before surgery. The liquid hit my esophagus and immediately cramped, my body rejecting even that small normalcy. It's normal, the nutritionist, Amanda Foster, assured me. Your digestive system has been completely rearranged. It's going to take time and patience to retrain everything. Time and patience. Two things that had never been part of my vocabulary in the kitchen, where everything moved at breakneck speed and perfection was expected immediately. Over the following months, I slowly relearned how to nourish myself. Tiny portions every 2 hours, no liquids with meals. Avoiding certain textures and temperatures that would send me into painful spasms. Each small victory, keeping down a spoonful of applesauce, tolerating a bite of bland chicken, felt monumental. Emma documented everything, keeping detailed logs of what worked and what didn't, celebrating micro improvements that would have been invisible to anyone else. She became expert at preparing the soft, bland foods I could tolerate, though I could see the sadness in her eyes when she served me yet another meal of pureed vegetables. I miss watching you cook, she admitted one evening as she fed me spoonfuls of butternut squash soup, ironically, a variation of the recipe I'd been perfecting when everything fell apart. Not just the food, but the way you came alive in the kitchen. The way your whole face would light up when you tasted something perfect. I missed it too. More than I could express, more than seemed possible to survive missing something. My identity had been so completely wrapped up in food and cooking that I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be without them. But I was Sophia Martinez, and I was alive, against all odds, despite surgical complications that should have killed me, despite a cancer that tried to steal everything I loved. I was alive. And slowly and possibly, I was learning to be grateful for that gift, even if it came in a form I never expected. This is how I learned that sometimes survival means becoming someone completely new.